Hey team, welcome once again to my backyard kitchen. And today we're going to cook a little betel leaf wrap, and you would have seen these guys on the menu at Nunu for nearly 19 years now. It's a very famous dish with Thai origins and became ubiquitous sort of around Australian menus in the 90s when it was made famous by David Thompson, and everyone has their little version. And our version today is featuring some hot smoked fish wings. Well, they're not fully hot smoked, but they're smoked first of all. They're given a lick of flavour, roasted in the oven, and then mixed with some beautiful fresh ingredients. And we need to make a strong, delicious peanut relish to go with it. I love the fact that for this dish, everything's within cooee of the restaurant itself. Whether it's the Melaleuca bark, which I can just pick across the road in the street here in front of my house, or whether it's the wings of the fish, we get in whole fish every day and always have, and we're always looking for a way to use up those extra bits of delicious protein. Or whether it's the papayas that hang over the fences of most gardens throughout far North Queensland, or the pomelos, or the betel leaves themselves. Now, it's not actually a betel leaf, it's a climbing pepper leaf, or a char flue they call it, and it runs rampant through the ground. Once the soil's inoculated, it's pretty tricky to get rid of, but they're very, very good at what they do. I'm also very excited today to be cooking with some of this incredible gidgee. Now, my mate tradie Brett just picked this up at Blackall, which is a good 12-hour drive that way out into central Queensland. And this stuff is absolutely as hard. It's as hard as a rock. I swear to God, like that weighs about 3 kilos. So I can't wait to see what it's like to cook with. So anyway, let's get cracking, team. So first things first, we need to get the fish wings or fish collars marinating. I've got some kingfish collars here today. To be honest, my preference would be a big red, something like a red emperor or a largemouth nanagai. Coral trout's also equally delicious, but these guys are fantastic as well, and this is the fish we had in-house this morning. The thing I love about this particular piece of the fish is it's like the brown meat. It's like extra oily and greasy, and the oil actually carries the smoke a lot better, so it's really, really fantastic for the way we're going to use it. So marinating these guys, I'm just going to pop them into a bowl and give them a hit of sugar. Now, I couldn't find any white sugar this morning in the pantry. I'll have to stock up on that, so I've got some brown sugar. It's much of a muchness. We just want to give the wings a good lick of sugar and then some fish sauce. And every chef will have their preference, and I certainly have mine, and that's this 3 Crab brand. It's like, to me, has the best flavour. It's worthwhile one day, grab yourself a whole bunch of different brands, but there is a massive variation in price and a massive variation in flavour. And I reckon this guy here is number 1. So we're going to hit the wings, just crack a fresh bottle, and give the wings a really good lick of fish sauce. And if we do this now, it'll draw through to the middle and give these guys a really luscious sort of salty sweetness, which I think's amazing. Give them a little massage. And then we're just going to put them aside until we smoke them in a little bit. Okay? So the next part of the dish is we need to make the actual jam or the relish itself. So it has a lot of coconut meat in it, and I would like to use the water as well to melt the palm sugar in. So just going to give this guy a big crack and then get the juice out. And we'll need to just double check that that's really fresh tasting and smells fantastic, which it does. So I'm just going to strain this and get out those little bit of husk and stuff like that. It's unfortunately fallen into the pan, and then strain that back into the fry pan ready to make our relish. Oh, there's another little bit there. And that's got to go straight onto the barbie. On we go. Now, into that coconut water, we're going to put some palm sugar, and you want to use light palm sugar for this job. Now, little known fact and a great little trick, grab your mortar and pestle and turn it upside down, and you'll notice that it's got a little bit of a concave surface, which is absolutely ideal for breaking up your palm sugar before it goes in the pan. All right, so give that guy a bit of a bash. We're going to need that in a second for our paste. And we're going to put a whole block of palm sugar into the coconut water to start melting. Maybe that much. Okay, while that simmers down and gets nice and thick and rich, we're going to get some coconut toasting off in the oven. No, Jesse. When you live in far North Queensland, it's pretty easy for your dog to get addicted to coconut. I'm not sure how good it is for them, but she loves it. Now, I've got my trusty little coconut grinder here. This thing's a bit of a terrorist. It'll destroy your hands if you're not careful, but if you're careful, it's fine. So all we need to do is just attach it to the bench. You can pick these up at the local market, and then using the coconut on the inside, we grind away to get some of this beautiful, fresh, delicious coconut flesh. You want this one? You have to sit down. Okay, off you go. That's our coconut ready to be toasted in the oven and made beautiful and dehydrated and crispy. You are. Another one of the ingredients we need to get in drying in the oven, so it's really sort of has no extra moisture and those flavours are concentrated, is some galangal. I love galangal. It's very different to ginger. It has a very suave sort of perfume to it and can often be very difficult to slice. It can get really, really hard. You can see there it's actually quite a bit of work for the knife to get through. So we just need to trim off some of this quite hard outer exterior, and you'll notice towards those little pink tips it's a lot more tender. And just get all of that gear off there. We don't have to be too crazy about it, but it does help if it's out of the way. And now, just using a grater or a microplane, we want to get it grated as finely as possible. And that's going to help us increase the surface area, obviously, to make it dry out faster, but also be much more palatable in the final relish. And you can see it's pretty grim work. It really does clog up the grater quickly, but it's very strong. We don't need mountains of it. I mean, the smell is just wonderful. You keep sort of changing angles so you can go against the different grains. Now, just tease that out slightly. We're going to dry that on the hearth. So we're going to smoke the fish wings, okay? I'm going to jimmy up a bit of a kind of bush smoker, or it's certainly a way to smoke things if you need to at home or when you're out camping. That's different to using the offset smoker. The offset smoker is great, but it's low and slow and doesn't quite have that intensity of flavour that I'm looking for. So in our smoke mix today, this is my favourite little smoke mix. We've got some jasmine rice and some brown sugar. I've got some black dried tea leaves, a couple of cloves, some torn up cinnamon, some bay leaves, a few star anise, and then we're going to put a shovel full of coals from the oven in there, and of course some Melaleuca bark. And this has obviously been used for centuries, and it has such a fantastic perfume and really does lend a beautiful exotic flavour to the fish. So, using an old pot, and I emphasise this, your pot could get hurt, and that's why it's really great to use some tin foil in the bottom. If you double fold up a piece of foil and make yourself like a little packet, it'll stop the pot getting damaged, but no promises, okay? So we want to have this guy in the bottom of the pot. And then into that, I'm going to tear some of the bark. Now, into that we're going to add the smoke mix. So like I said, it's about equal parts rice and sugar, and the sugar burns really quickly and the rice burns really slowly and kind of cooks the whole thing into a cake that you can throw out later after it's cooled down. So just grab a few handfuls of that, and I'm warning you, please don't get the sugar on the bottom of your pot or frying pan or whatever it is, because it will probably never come off. But if you do use the tin foil trick I've got here, I promise you it's very safe. So in goes that stuff. Put that aside. And we need to get our fish ready. Now I've set up here an old wire rack that's going to look like that, okay? So it's raised above where the burning smoky embers are going to be. One of the things that can go astray here is having a bit too much liquid left on your marinating wings, that they actually put the smoke mix and smoke out. So I might just grab a little bit of paper towel and we'll just pat them dry. So grab a little bit of paper towel and just dry the wings off so that the juice doesn't put out your smokiness. Okay, so we're going to give those guys a bit of a pat dry. Okay, so now to shovel some coals from the oven into our smoke mix so that they can catch fire. So you just want to grab yourself I'm going to shovel these hot coals into our pot. Now those coals don't quite have the oomph in them I need. Well, actually does. If I just give it a little bit of a poke so they can get down into that sugar. And we'll get the fish ready to go on top. Now, those coals have started to set the sugar on fire, or melt the sugar and get it to burn, and the rice is burning with it. And the perfume that comes off the top is this really delicious, heady mix of kind of tea leaves and spices and sugar. So we're going to get our fish in now. I'm just going to put my rack in there carefully because the whole thing's getting pretty damn hot. And then lay our wings up on the grate above those hot coals and put a lid straight on top. Okay? And I want to put this guy off to the side to smoke for a good 30 or 40 minutes. And be careful at home because I have just left a scorch mark right there on my bench, but it actually looks very beautiful. Probably a good spot to put the mortar and pestle for the next part of the dish. We'll put that. I'll see if I can cover up my mistake, but that's okay. Righto, now it is time, team, to start pounding up our relish. And we want to start with a lick of salt. It is always easier in the mortar and pestle if you have an abrasive, and we're going to season later on with some fish sauce, so we may as well use some salt to get the whole show on the road. So, some salt in there. I've got a few garlic cloves. Again, recipes are not my forte. I cook by smell and taste and feel, and I've done it many, many times. So, what have I got? A handful of garlic cloves to go in. First of all, we're going to give these guys a little bit of a mash. So it's really important that the wet ingredients get crushed smooth before we add the harder stuff. Now just give that a bit of a bash up until sure you can start smelling that beautiful pungent garlic smell. A little bit fell out there. Okay, and into there I'm going to put a few of our favourite little chilies. I don't know if you're a fan of hot stuff, but I absolutely love these guys. They've got so much fire. So I'll go 3, we'll go 4. Put an extra one in. Give them a little bit of a bash. Try not to get the seeds in your eyes. I've done that a few times. I'll tell you what, so bashing in those chilies, and it's a good idea to make sure the chili fibres are really mashed up. Now we are going to start adding our drier ingredients. So into here I have a little bit of fish from a previous occasion that was smoked that I've just dried out in the oven to make a really kind of strong, seafoody, smoky, salty sort of product that is now I could keep in a jar in the cupboard, and this is going to go in here as well. And it really does give the paste a bit of that background oomph. So I probably need, I'll go on the rest of that. Go in there. We're going to keep mashing this up so it's all smooth and uniform. Okay, that looks great. I've got some fried garlic. Now, why would I use two types of garlic? The raw garlic is pungent and ferocious, and this is sweeter and more caramelized, like cornflakes. So we're just going to pop in a few of those garlic chips. And I've also got some crispy fried shallots for the same sort of reason, really sweet and nutty, going into our paste as well. We're going to keep giving it a bit more of a punch up. And the smells coming out of this mortar and pestle are just intoxicating. And you'll notice that the oil from the garlic and the shallots help making a kind of smoother paste. Okay, looking pretty good. Now we're going to add some of our ground up dried coconut that I had. And our final ingredient to put in here is that beautiful toasted galangal from earlier. And that's all powder dry. We'll add the galangal. Oh, the smell is just amazing. Oh, heady stuff, team, heady stuff. Okay, back on the grind. So you can see it's really kind of turned into sort of like a fudgy paste. And that is ready to be introduced to our caramel that we're cooking on the fireplace there. And that needs to go into the palm sugar and coconut water. So, we're going to give that a very quick stir because it's starting to caramelize. Now, I'm just going to give that a little lick more water because it's getting a little bit too stiff and we don't want it to set like toffee. I'm just going to pull that ever so slightly off the heat. While that's simmering very slowly, just on the edge of the fire, I need to get some peanuts ready because it is a peanut and papaya relish. I'm going to do a bit of half-half here. So we'll put some of the peanuts into the mortar and pestle with some salt, and I'm going to add the other peanuts straight to the pan once I've crushed these, and that way we kind of have like a smooth peanut paste as well as a nice and crunchy lumps of peanut through it. So we'll add the slightly crushed up peanuts. along with our toasted granulated peanuts. We'll give that another stir. We're going to let the paste simmer on the stove there until we can smell the galangal. Now, we would have spoken about this when we made that curry a few weeks ago. The things with the most moisture are obviously what we're going to smell first. So right now I'm getting a lot of that raw garlic sort of smell coming out of the pan with beautiful notes of peanut and coconut and galangal behind it. Once that rawness is gone and we're really just getting that strong sort of spice note of the galangal, we'll know it's time to season the paste. And we're going to season it with my favourite fish sauce and some tamarind. So choose a tamarind brand that you really like. I love this one because it's really, really fruity and there's not too many seeds. And in order to prepare this, all we need to do is crack open the packet. Now, a lot of people will tell you to boil this stuff up, and I don't like that at all because I think it drives off that plummy character that the tamarind has. You can also in Palm Cove get fresh tamarind if you'd like. This stuff grows pretty much everywhere. There's a tree on the front street that drops its pods once a year, but it is a bit of a bugger to harvest. Once the tamarind's out of its packet, just want to tear it into bits so that it can hydrate faster. Now, probably don't need all of this, but I'll do it anyway. It's a bit of a goozy job. That's okay, just wash your hands afterwards. So you'll see it's like this soup, almost like sticky, like a date, you know, like it's a really sticky fruit with seeds all through it. And its flavour, like I said, is like a beautifully fresh cut plum. So it's tart and a little sweet. And into there, we're going to add some water. I go kind of like a 1-to-1, I suppose. And then get in there and give it a really good squidge with your fingies. And you want to be kind of like massaging the fruit off the seeds. And at first you'll just have what looks like muddy water. And if you stick at it for a few minutes, you'll end up with a thick and delicious brown liquid that we can use to season up our peanut paste. You'll see already that what was just water is now thickening up into a beautiful creamy solution of tamarind water, and the fruit's dissolving into that liquid and the seeds are becoming separate. So ideally just let that sit for a second and it'll bloom and you'll get even more flavour out of it. The paste is starting to look and smell fantastic, and you can tell it's nearly ready because the bubbles are getting smaller, which means the amount of liquid left in here is close to bugger all. And all that's really left is this super, extremely fragrant paste of sugar and nuts, and garlicky and galangly. It's miles from ready yet. So it's time to give it a good lick of fish sauce. And this will, of course, when I say a good lick, I mean a pretty healthy burst of the fish sauce, because we've got to balance out all of that sweetness. Right, give it another stir. Let it come back to the boil. That's pretty damn good. First shot. And I really like with the seasoning to just do it in stages. So you want to go get that sweetness right with the nuts and the galangal, and then add the salt, the fish sauce. And when you get a really evenness, I don't want it to be too sweet and I don't want it to be too salty. I just want it to hit like a really beautiful chord. And then we're going to get this acidity in there from the tamarind. And just let that bubble for a second longer. So the tamarind has bloomed. You can have a little taste. It's like a nice thick paste. We want to strain off the seeds so that really we've just got that thick pulpy sauce without the seeds in it. Need a bit more there. This sieve's probably just a tickle too fine, but that's okay. We'll get enough of the sauce. It's pretty powerful stuff. and an absolute must for the pantry. I have a few packets kicking around. Great to season soups, great to season curries, obviously, and relishes and pastes. Okay, then we get all the extra off the bottom. You can see we've really easily extracted plenty of nice thick tamarind paste. And the reason I say thick is because if it's too watery and thin, it will dilute your sauce and it won't quite be the consistency you want. So we're going to add this now to our peanut relish. That is so good. With the tamarind now into this paste, you can see just how thick it is. We want to use it cold to make our little betel leaf wrap. It's almost like a jam. So if it's too thick, it's going to set like a toffee and you won't be able to use it. If it's too runny, it'll just end up slopping everywhere. But that looks pretty fantastic. And just having a little taste. It is so rich. It's everything I love about this sort of food. It's like too sour, too sweet, too salty, and just too damn delicious. There's a real fire from the little chilies, but not so much that it's burning. It's just like a pepperiness on the lips. The background note of that galangal and the peanuts are so bitter and nutty and have that great umami flavour. I think for one final flourish, the customer dropped these off at the restaurant yesterday, so I might just put some of our kaffir lime fruit and put its zest in there to give it a little bit of brightness. And you'll notice I put this in at the last minute so that it doesn't get cooked out and get lost in the background. This will mean that it's really kind of perfumed and delicious and up front. So we're going to pop this into a bowl and get it into the fridge so it can cool down. Once it's cold, look, ideally keep it in the fridge in a jar, but really this stuff ain't going off. There's so much sugar in here and so much salt and so much acidity. Nothing's going to go wrong, but in the back of the fridge it would last for years. So a great thing to have on hand. Awesome to put in salads and really good for what we're doing today. Righto, it's probably time to check on this fish. So it's been sitting there for about half an hour, and inside, this is like the smokiest. The fish hasn't cooked, but it's definitely well and truly on its way. But it's picked up a lot of that beautiful smoke. And as that, the collagen in the fish wing is just super sticky and delicious. So I'm going to put them on a tray and just finish them through the oven so we can get them really roasted and get that extra sort of dimension of flavour. There's a little bit that's fallen off that's cooked already. Okay, so for the betel leaf salad, we'll get the betel leaves themselves, and I like to leave the smallest amount of stalk on them. And a really great trick here is to soak them in a little bit of water and sugar. And all that does is, one, gets them nice and clean if they've been in the garden, but also it tends to drive out some of that astringency, some of that grassiness, and it helps crisp them up a little. So I've just got some sugar and some water, and then just leave them off to the side for a second, and that'll just help the leaves crisp up a little bit. For the salad, green papaya. Now these guys are just a fantastic product. Awesome steamed, funnily enough, and you can treat it like you would, say, a carrot or a potato, and it's really delicious in curries, and obviously always delicious raw, a bit of a feature of the old somtam or green papaya salad. They are absolutely everywhere, it would seem, in far North Queensland, and I reckon I know every backstreet fence where I can reach over and grab one of you if I'm in dire need. One of the great thrills of coming up here to far North Queensland, I mean, among many, and it's very easy to fall in love with such an incredible place, is that all of these ingredients are just in abundance all around us. I mean, pomelos grow prolifically. They're in piles at Rusty's markets, the green papaya. The betel leaves themselves I've just picked out of the garden, but they grow all around the restaurant. They grow in the median strips, and they grow pretty much anywhere they're in the soil. They just go rampant. They do. The ones in the cool, dark places are probably the best. Kaffir lime leaves are in abundance, and limes and chilies. So it's just the recipe itself seems to come together in this place. So first of all, as I've spoken about before, we just need to cut some papaya into nice little threads. And this is another one of those examples of where the cook can become alchemist by cutting things in a certain way. We want this to be fine, but not so fine that it falls apart on the betel leaf, but not so coarse that it's a real chore to eat. We just want that beautiful balance where it's sort of lacy and delicious. So you will find another little tip with this one is the sap can make you very, very itchy. A horror story of my son one day when he's one of his first days in the kitchen, and he was tasked with peeling a whole bunch of papayas, but no one really showed him how to do it. So he had them balanced against his t-shirt like this and was peeling the papaya. The poor little bugger had a red rash that basically went from his throat all the way to his belly button. He was screaming in agony. It can get very, very itchy, so it's worthwhile just being a little bit sort of careful. And peel off some of the outside. I mean, there's a million ways you could do this. You could do it on a mandolin, but we really only need a few slices. So I'm just going to take that off. Ooh. Okay. Just getting some beautiful little slices. You'll notice I slice backwards like this. There's no right or wrong way. It's just a technique I picked up forever ago, and I just love it. So put our papaya into the salad bowl. And you can see I've really gone for that sort of straw-like, not too coarse, not too fine. And again, so you could normally go forwards this way, but I like going this way. Shredding, sort of a more of a ripping way through the papaya. In we go. So just while we're making the salad, I can hear those fish wings sizzling behind me. So we'll pull them out and have a look. And they look fantastic. Once you hear that fat kind of spit and crackle like that, you know they're ready. So I need to put them to the side because they'll need to be cool for us to be able to pick them and put them in the salad. And then put them over here. So next of all, we have the mighty pink pomelo. And these are like something from the Jurassic. It would seem like a giant grapefruit. It has a beautiful thick pith. And then on the inside, this ruby flesh with these big granular seeds. And you can just see how much pith there is on the outside. So I find it handy to take both ends off. Just so awesome. And then I'm going to take off a side so we can get at those segments. Now, one of the reasons that the pomelo is so great for this is that these little segments hold together like little bursts of flavour. Now, once we get it cut open, we can kind of tear it like this. And that reveals these incredible segments that are just beautiful. Whoa. Sour and bitter and sweet. Perfect for our salad. Definitely getting to the end of the season, because they're getting quite firm and crunchy. But that's fine for this dish. You see it breaks into fantastic kind of seeds. So you have this experience of like bursts of pomelo interspersed with the really sour crunchiness of the green papaya. So next up is some long red chilies, and you'll notice I've changed knives for this job because it's nicer to have a square edge rather than a rounded edge for filleting out the chilies. So I just like to take the ends off and then cut it down the middle, take off the seeds, and then we want to fillet out all of that membrane stuff. And the reason we have two types of chili here is this sort of red chili is quite fruity. It's quite ripe and fruity, so it's going to have a different flavour again from those little green buggers. And then once again, once in position, just super thinly slice this chili. So you just have these great little threads, and they are as thin as you can get them. And you can see it's like hairs of chili. We want the chili flecks to be all the way through, but not ridiculously hot. And I just think that there is a necessary precision here for really thoughtful and considered slicing. It really does make the final product, like it elevates it from something that could just be pedestrian, but that elevation through technique, through precision, and the super sharp knife means that you aren't bruising the product and you're not getting its juice all the way through the dish. It's really, you're only tasting it when I want you to taste it because of those super fine threads and a nice sharp knife. I do want to add though another little chili, and this one just for its fire and brimstone. We don't want this to be too safe or civilized. Just a few little slices of this green guy, because they are, I promise you, so hot. Just so hot. Now, I always think about chilies as like, this is a grown-up and this is like my angry teenagers. full of energy. Now we want some kaffir lime leaves. So I've just got a couple here. Best way to do this, I believe, one is if they're nice and fresh and young. Line up the spine so that and make a big stack of them, and make sure all the spines are in the same direction. I'll grab one more. And then trying to avoid where I've got a million ruts in my board here from too many dinner parties and cleavers. Square it up, and then using that same technique, just pulling back slightly so you get these like threads. If the chili was fine, the kaffir lime leaf is finer still. Literally hairs. You want them to dissolve on the palate. Team, let's have a look at this fish wing. So I've just got this out of the fridge. It's been cooling down. Oh, you can see it's stained beautiful and yellow from the smoke. And this is really what I reckon the best part of the fish is. I've got to be quite careful here that we don't get any bones or scales into our salad, because it would be really disappointing to have done all this work and then have a bite and have a bone go into our mouth. So you can see that it just teases open. And this is, like I said, the most unctuous, the most greasy, the best part of the fish, I reckon, and perfect for what we're doing here. I'm just flaking it down, probably around the size of the pomelo. Nothing too, my favorite actually, I'll get my best bit out. My best bit is this brown stuff in here. You can just run your finger, there it is there. You can just run your finger and get that guy. It's like the oyster at the back of a chicken. A bit for me. Oh, tastes like the sea. The richness from the sugar and the fish sauce. So good. Okay, into the mixing bowl we go. We've got a little bit more there. Yep. Another bit underneath that bone. It's always nice and delicious and greasy. I think that's nearly it. And give this the gentlest, and I mean gentle, of tosses. Just so that it starts to combine. And then we need to add the paste. So I'll just grab that out of the fridge. we've got our relish. So this is the peanut relish that we cook down in the palm sugar and the coconut water. It's got the dried coconut in it. It's got the dried galangal and chili. And you can see the texture of it. It's like a really thick relish or jam. Because it's still not quite cold enough. Now it's crucial at this point that we don't overwork it, because the salt that's in that relish will break down all the rest of the ingredients. We just need a tickle more. In we go. The lightest of stirs. Now, you can see what a terrific jumble of ingredients that is. Kaffir lime, green papaya, pink pomelo. The peanuts are all crunchy and spicy. Now into there, we're going to add some lime juice. I don't want to add too much, just a little squeeze for a bit more brightness and a taste. I always taste the food. It'd be great as a salad on its own. That is spot on. We'll grab ourselves a plate and we'll need one of these leaves. The leaves have been there for a few moments. You can tell they're kind of, you can see that they're crisper and a little firmer, so I'll choose that one. Now the whole idea here is to eat the leaf and the salad in its entirety. You should roll it up. So just put the leaf on the plate and grab a little tiniest little piece of our mix, making sure that there is some fish and there are some peanuts and pomelo. Making sure that every person gets one of these. Now can't make it too big, otherwise it'd be very difficult to eat. You do want to have a decent, nice big bit of fish on top like that. Okay, once we get him to there, I've got some crispy fried shallots that have been sitting on the front of the hearth, staying really crispy and crunchy. They add that, you know, the nutty, delicious sweetness of onions. And more cranberry hibiscus out of the garden, which I thought would be really nice, and sort of sliced over the top like the kaffir lime leaf. So I'm just going to do a few little threads. Put that off there. And a little bit of that beautiful purple leaf. And I've got some salmon pearls. You know I love the salmon pearls, and these just give the whole dish sort of like pops of saltiness and crunch. It's almost like they emulate the pomelo. Just a textural affair. Put those guys on top. Some more of our lime leaf. And a couple more little garlic chips. One or two of these. Another guy there, another guy there. And then some finger lime. I'm just going to take that out rather than squeeze it on top. And there you go. So there you have it, team. Melaleuca smoked kingfish collar with peanut and papaya relish, betel leaf, salmon pearls, lime leaf, and a little bit of finger lime to boot. It is just a heady concoction of textures and flavours and pops and whistles and bangs. Too sour, too salty, fiery, your lips tingle, and it's just a mess. It's like a nasty hot mess, and it is so much fun. It's a treat to make, and it's an even bigger treat to try and watch someone eat one and just to make a mess and drool everywhere. Hope you enjoyed it, gang. Welcome again to my backyard kitchen. See you next time.